Next, I'm going to be doing the Who portion. This part here I actually recorded after the rest of it because I failed to mention something. Probably the scariest, most confusing question that anyone has ever asked me is, who are you? I don't even know. I suppose some of you know better than me. I don't know. But I'm going to try to nail it down to just some things. Some things that are me. Did you ever have somebody ask you that question? Who are you? I don't mean a song by The Who. I just mean somebody asking, who are you? Who are you? Huh? Who are you? What makes you tick? Well, more later. Okay, this is what I told you I was going to do. Got my cheat sheet here so I don't wander too much. Who I am. My name is Edward Francis Baranowski Jr. I know that's a mouthful. I'm a 55-year-old male, American male. I have been disillusioned with life for a long time. You know, that whole what's it all about and all that stuff. I'm fortunate, more fortunate than most, I think, because when it comes down to why am I here, why was I put here, that kind of thing, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in a God and a plan and all that. But I know why I'm here. I have 3 kids, Mike, Matt, and Danny. And I had a part to play in their being here, obviously. And they are 3 kids who are great kids. I'm very proud of them. They've always made me proud when they were little and even now. All very smart. They're assets to society. The world's a better place for them being here. So I guess in a way, the world's a better place for me being here. Although sometimes I find that hard to believe. Disillusioned with life. When I was 19 or 20, that was the first time I wanted to drop out of society. I just thought, the hell with it. You know, I can't play the game like people do, and working for somebody else just seems like a joke. Money is nice so you can buy some toys, but I think it's evil. I'm not a Bible thumper by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, I'm an atheist, but there are a few good things in there, you know, and one of them is the love of money is the root of all evil. Look at what's happening in the world today, right? Go figure. I'm a father, like I said, and that's probably why I was here. I was in the Marines. I did not spend a lot of time in there. Made it through boot camp, which is a tough thing to do, and I got out to my duty station out in 29 Palms, California, out in the middle of the Mojave Desert. And basically within a few months I realized this is not what I signed up for. It was just ridiculous. I'd never been a person who likes authority, and especially authority who's thrust upon me. If it's somebody that I have a choice in, then fine, because then I respect them. But if it's somebody who's an idiot, then I have a problem with that, and that's been a long-standing issue. So after a few months out in my duty station, I realized that this really wasn't going to happen. So I went into boot camp 9 days after my 17th birthday. So you're keep in mind here, I was a 17-year-old kid trying to decide that I didn't want to be in the Marine Corps anymore, and how do I get out without going to the brig? Well, there's ways, and I'm a firm believer in if you don't have the answer, if you don't know what to do, know the person who has the answer. And I started hanging around with what we call the shitbirds, the people who were on their way out and had all kinds of sly information and ways to get out, and I just worked at that and got out. I signed a GOS discharge for the good of the service. It's considered an undesirable, so it's not like the worst. It's not a dishonorable or anything like that. You got to be really bad to get that. Undesirable just means we really don't want you around, and that was okay because the feeling was mutual. So I signed some papers, Got out, I was in 13 months total, so I can say I was a Marine because I got the attitude, but I didn't play the game, so I didn't like it, and I got out. I left. Adventurous but cautious. A long time ago I read something about birth order. Time out. Well, like I was saying before I got so rudely interrupted, fucking humans. Sitting out here on this pier out by Lake Seminole. There's not a soul out here, and all of a sudden some idiot walks up, so I had to shut it off because I'm not telling my life story to him, I'm telling it to you. So anyway, I was talking about being adventurous but cautious. A long time ago I heard about birth order. I read an article on it, heard a news story on it, and firstborns are usually the ones who are a little bit more cautious. Not all the time, but they are. You know, they don't have a older brother to watch do something and then do it themselves. They're kind of, you know, a little cautious about doing things. So that's the way I am. Maybe I overplan things. The next thing on here, unhappy and depressed. I am not bipolar. I hear people talk about their bipolar because they get bummed out and all this stuff, but they have their manic modes. You know, I don't have that. I mean, I don't have the super happy high. I mean, I can get it momentarily, like I get happy, but it's not a manic thing. The depression, and this is for you, Mike, Matt, and Danny. Most of my life I've had some sort of depression, and it comes in waves. So if you ever feel like really bummed out and it just seems like there's no reason for it, like everything's going good but you feel like shit anyway, talk to somebody, get help. If you have to take meds or something like that, fine. I personally don't. What I've learned in my life is that when it gets bad, it's like a tsunami. It comes in and it's rough, and then it just subsides and then you're fine. And the least little things can set it off. It seems like it's cyclical. If I was a woman, I'd say it was, you know, a monthly thing, but I can't even say that because I'm not a woman. I don't know that there's any rhyme or reason to the cycle. It just happens. But I've learned to live with it. It's okay. Some of the best poetry I've written has stemmed right from those feelings. It's been the impetus for a lot of work. Find some hobby to do if you have this kind of thing going on with you. I don't care if it's writing, taking pictures, you know, doing other weird artwork. Up in Illinois I did a lot of weird artwork, and that helped. It's funny, right after unhappy and depressed I have funny. I am a funny guy. I like to crack jokes. To me, a day without making somebody laugh is like a day without sunshine. I've got a great sense of humor. I find humor in some of the sickest, most twisted things, but it's okay because it makes me laugh, and if I'm the only one laughing, fuck you. But usually I get other people laughing too. When I die, people are going to probably remember me as, he was a funny fucker. That's what she said. Anyway, smart. Yeah, that's a tough one. By the age of 3.5, I was reading some of the basic Dr. Seuss books. My mom taught me to read those. And by the time I was in first, second grade, I mean, everything was like really easy. Third grade was just, we had these spelling books. I would just read the list once and I was done. I didn't, you know, all these kids were studying. I didn't have to study. I knew it. I have a really great memory for a lot of weird things. Not everything. I'm not perfect. I'm still human. But at the age of 11, I was in 5th grade. And it's kind of ironic, there's a TV show, Are You Smarter Than the 5th Grader? Because every time I think about that, I'm reminded of when I was in 5th grade. I had a teacher, Mrs. Zacula. She noticed something about me. She noticed I was a little different. I was able to get my homework done in class, and instead of taking it home, and I was usually the first one done with the test, handing it in, and I'm just sitting there looking out the window. And she knew that I was bored, so she told my mom to go have me tested, and I went to a place in Elgin. It was called the Academy. I mean, I vaguely remember even going there, but it was a bunch of tests, and it was those little ones where you circle in where you color in the little circles with pencil, number 2 pencil, and all that shit. And to me, it was just a game. And when it was all done, the report came back that at the age of 11, I was reading at second-year college level, and I had an IQ of 168. Sometimes I wish she would have never told me all that stuff, because it's been a problem, you know. I mean, I used to think I'm so smart compared to the average person. What the hell's going on? You know, why is it that I haven't been, you know, some captain of industry or some successful businessman or whatever people conceive to be successful? And then my oldest son Mike told me about a book called Outliers, and it absolved me of a lot of that. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It's what you know, who you know, if your parents had money, just a lot of little things. So everything's pretty good. It's like what I tell my kids. It's not how smart you are, it's what you do with it. Bad with money. Yes, I am bad with money. I always tell people I have a genius IQ, but I'm fiscally retarded. If you give me $100 and 2 days from now you ask me where it is, odds are it's gone. And I can probably tell you that I got a little bit of gas, I got a couple packs of cigarettes, I got a lottery ticket, and I'm really not sure what happened with the rest of it. I've never been good at budgeting. I mean, I understand the concept. I've tried it a few times. It just, I guess, just short-term goals are more important to me than long-term goals. Is that the problem? I don't know. You tell me. But give me $100 and tell me. Yeah, that love of money. I hate the fact that money excites me. I get paid, and all of a sudden I am a happy camper. And then by the end of the weekend, when I have paid some bills and don't have much left, I'm sitting there going, what the fuck? Then I'm bummed out again. There's a cycle for you. But you know what? Money's money. It is what it is. I am a recovered alcoholic, and for those of you who don't know what that means that I used to be a problem drinker. And it was a problem. You know, a real problem. Once I started, I could not stop until I passed out, or I got thrown out of wherever I was, and that didn't always stop me either. I have not been drunk since November of 1983. Don't applaud, it's no big deal. I say recovered because I don't really think about it anymore. I mean, it's been a long time. If I was to walk into a bar for some other reason than to drink, obviously, I don't see people drinking and romanticize it. It doesn't mean anything to me. Now see, I said I haven't been drunk since 1983. Now that doesn't mean that I haven't had a drink, because there were a few times when things were going bad, or, you know, and I'd go get a six-pack and I'd pop one open and I'd guzzle that thing down. I would take 2 sips of the next one and say, this is not going to end well, and I would just pour it out, and that was it. And there was one time I was on a fishing trip, and nobody packed water. Nobody packed pop in the boat. All there was ice-cold beer, and it was July on the Mississippi River, 95 degrees. I was dying. Literally, like, seeing double. Kind of gotta have some water, so popped one open, drank. It felt really guilty, but at least, you know, I got some water in me. A lifelong pothead. Yep, I love marijuana. In those ensuing 30 years that I have not drank to excess, you know, meaning, you know, not getting drunk, just the 1 or 2 beers here or there, and I do mean here or there, maybe 7 times in 30 years I've had anything from a sip to 2 beers, and it was usually more toward a sip or a couple gulps. But marijuana, I have smoked in that 30 years, but I have not smoked as much in those 30 years as I did in a long weekend back in the 70s. If that stuff were legal here in Florida, I would be spending some of my paycheck on that, because I do like it. It helps me sleep at night. I think it unleashes some creativity. I really do. George Carlin talked about that once, how he would write all his stuff straight and then he'd take a couple one-hits and punch it up. You know, I mean, it's just something I like, but I mean, I haven't done that in a couple years, and even when I did that, it was just this one couple week period, and that was it. Drummer. Yes, I am a drummer. I've been playing drums since 1966. I was 8 years old. The impetus for me wanting to play drums was Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees. I was a kid. I loved that show. It was funny as hell. He was a drummer. He was goofy. I wanted to play drums, so I got drums. It wasn't too long after that, a few years, when I started discovering people like John Bonham, my real hero as far as drums. Can't play like him, but I can come kind of close. And I haven't played drums in a long time, but it's something I know I can do. A lover of rock and roll. Yep. Rock, blues-based rock is my favorite. I can't lie, I do like a little bit of classical stuff. Don't like much country other than Johnny Cash. Johnny is the man. Rap music doesn't do it for me. Opera, no way. Lots of new stuff, I just can't handle it. It all sounds the same. I'm kind of stuck in the late 60s and into the 70s with the good stuff. Seen a lot of great concerts, man. Whew. First concert was Black Sabbath in 1976. I was at the Super Bowls of Rock at Soldier Field in Chicago that had headliners like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Ted Nugent, and one was just all Pink Floyd. I mean, it was great. A wanderlust. When I was a little kid, we'd be cruising down the road like on some long journey somewhere, and I would see these signs, you know, see to this, you know, and a couple miles later, see this, you know, stop in and see, and I wanted to go and see all that shit, you know. I didn't want to get to where we were going. I wanted to see all the stuff. It's not the destination, people, it's the journey. The destination is the same for all of us. We fucking die. You die someday. And if you're just plugging along like most of us are you really living? I've seen some posts on YouTube, to thine own self be true kind of things, and if you're not living your life, you're not living, and it's blah 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 blah, and some of those things hit me right square in the eyes, and they tell me that just sitting here, it's just not doing it. When I first left Illinois, my bicycle trip that went sideways, my plan was just to go south. I didn't even know where I was going to go. I just want to go south somewhere where it was warmer and just stay there. Live out in the woods. Be a homeless person with a cardboard sign saying, give me money, whatever. I didn't even know. And a very dear friend of mine, Lauren, said, are you going to go down and see your mom? I had never thought of that. You know, at the time, she was late 70s. My stepdad has a litany of physical issues. Emphysema, COPD, he's got a pacemaker, he's got borderline diabetic, he's on oxygen 24/7, vascular dementia, which through one of the heart attacks he had, it cut off oxygen to his brain long enough where he's not always all there, you know, and it's a lot for her to do, just normal upkeep of a house and normal shit, and then, you know, keeping an eye on him. And she has Parkinson's, which I always thought it was just the shaking, but then when I started doing some more research on it, it's opened my eyes to some of the reason that she is the way she is. It's a central nervous disease, central nervous system. This is your central nervous system up here, right between your ears. So it causes memory loss, it causes a certain form of dementia. Since I've been down here, she's exhibited, you know, being angry for no reason at all, being super emotional and crying over nothing. The blame game, yelling at somebody all the time for no good reason. I mean, I took it as it was me. I was doing something wrong, and then slowly but surely it was like, no. I mean, I'm not a perfect son. I'm not a perfect person, but you know, I do what I can down here. I do a lot of little projects for them, and I keep an eye on my stepdad, and you know, when she's trying to sleep, and I do a lot of things, but it's like you can never do right. She always finds fault in it. So what happens is when somebody is like that, you start pulling away. It's kind of like my mom died, and there's somebody else in that body. But every once in a while, she pops up her head and I see it's her. But most of the time, it's not. And I've talked back to her a few times and said a few things that, I'm sorry for, and I tell her in words and in deeds, how much I love her and all that, but it's hard. So anyway, that is who I am, and there's probably a little bit of what, when, where, why, and how, and all that shit, but that's the who. And I'll start writing the what soon, what I plan on doing. Oh, did I mention I'm also a smoker? My eldest son is 25. When he was about 13, I had the three of them at a Denny's, and that was back when you could still smoke in the back room of the Denny's. And he was anti-smoking, and he looked at me and he said, "Dad, do you wish that you never started smoking?" And I had never really given it much thought, but I just told him, I said, well, everything happens for a reason. All of a sudden this flow of, if I had never started smoking cigarettes, I would have never started hanging around with that crowd. That crowd. The people who smoke cigarettes probably smoke pot and drink beer. And by not hanging around with them, I wouldn't have started smoking pot and drinking beer. And by not starting smoking pot and drinking beer, I never would have, progressed into being an alcoholic who had some problems. And if I had never progressed into that, I would have never thought, geez, I need to stop. And if I would have never got to that point, I never would have asked somebody in AA to help me. And if I had never gone to an AA meeting, I wouldn't have been turned on to this one job that was in that town that I actually went to go work for. And if I hadn't worked there around the fall of that year, I wouldn't have been told about the possibility of working at the Bartlett JC Spook House. And if I hadn't gone there and worked at the Bartlett JC Spook House, I wouldn't have met this girl who was a couple years younger than me, who was kind of cute, and I wound up getting married to her, and well, engaged first and then married, and then having 3 kids. So if I had never started smoking, I would have never had my kids. So probably one of the worst decisions I ever made. Wasn't really all that bad, because it turned out okay. I got 3 silver linings to this dark cloud. Not a problem. Easy trade-off. I'll probably die because of some of this stuff. Probably a heart attack. Probably won't be cancer. There's not much cancer in my life. It'll be a grabber. It'll be quick. I hope I get some kind of warning so I can freak out the people around me. That's enough of that. Thank you. I love you. Be good.